My Uncle Sean and Aunt Marianne went on the Abraham Lincoln funeral train, and all I get to do is intro this lousy video.
Command. So if I pull the string 2 times, he has to toot the horn 2 times, or the steam engine whistle 2 times. Are you ready? Listen carefully. All right, we're going to be underway here in a second. Pretty cool, huh? How many railroad enthusiasts have we have here? Any? All right, you're going to be our question man today. All right, what do railroaders call a train? Because they don't call it a train. No? Anyone else? Close. They call it a consist. Consist. It's a name that's been in railroading since the early 1800s. They don't refer to it as train. Now, this consist has 3 pieces of equipment on it today. It has an engine, passenger car you're riding in, and a private car that's attached to the end known as the Lincoln car. We'll start off a little bit about the engine. Now, when we get to a crossing, they'll blow the whistle. I will stop talking because I can't out-talk the whistle. We are a fully operational railroad, so we must obey all railroad rules and regulations. So we will blow the whistle, ring the bell, and we'll take care of everything to make sure you guys are safe. Because at 25 miles an hour, we could get hurt if we fall. All right, now the engine. The engine is an American-type locomotive. This locomotive is actually a reproduction. It was built in 2008. It's a reproduction of an engine that was used at Palminteri Point, Utah. Anyone know what happened at Palminteri Point, Utah in 1869? My railroad guys?
There you go. We got one.
There we go, the Transcontinental Railroad. You get the second Chevy for the day. You can pick it up at the amusement stand at the end of the day. Yes, it was the first Transcontinental Railroad. Interesting enough, President Lincoln signed the act that actually started the Transcontinental Railroad. It can link the East Coast to the West Coast. So this engine here is a full reproduction of that engine because the existing engine is no longer around. Now, Transcontinental Railroad, how did you get across the United States before the railroad? You either walked, rode a Conestoga wagon, or a horse, or a buggy. Now, how long do you think it took to get across America when you didn't have a train? If you made it, 6 to 9 months. When the Transcontinental Railroad came in, the trip time went from that long to about 6 to 8 days. I want everybody to wave on this side to our bridge watcher and traffic person. We affectionately call them our trolls because they're protecting the bridge and the track, but it is a necessary thing. And he is not texting right now, so I feel really, really good about that. So moving on, the car that you're in here is a wood reproduction car. A car was used to travel from Chicago, Illinois to San Francisco. And if I have more time, we'll go back to the engine stuff, but I don't want to cut short and get to the main attraction of the engine. This car was built from builder plans. The windows don't go up all the way because they didn't have casement windows at the time, and the windows only go as high as the ceiling because they don't hurt butts. All right, the last car we have here is the Lincoln car. Now, it wasn't starting out as the Lincoln funeral car. It started out as the Lincoln car because President Lincoln actually commissioned that car to be built so he could travel around the country and visit the constituents after the Second World War. Now, he commissioned the car to be built. It was being built, and he was going to tour it on April the 15th. That night, April the 14th, he went to Forbes Theater, and his history would tell us he never made it through the night because he was assassinated that night. So the car never got to see it as a presidential passenger car. What it did is it was recommissioned to a funeral car for the act of Congress, the White House staff, and the Mrs. Lincoln. So the only differences in the cars from when it was designed to when it was used for his funeral car is they removed one of the rooms because when he was traveling back to his internment in Illinois, they took one of the rooms out to make room for his youngest son who had died many years earlier. Both of them were on the train at the time. Now, the reason they have the Lincoln car, and it's a reproduction, the original car... Now, as a side note, we can actually tell what engineer it is by how he blows the whistle. They all have to blow the whistle the same amount of toots, but each one has their own finger touch to what they do. So anyway, the reason the car had to be reproduced, because after Lincoln's funeral train, the car was sold to the Union Pacific Railroad on the West Coast. It was taken out there, and they had great ideas of making it a money producer. That didn't happen. It was sold several times. Different people tried to expedite it at state fairs, local events. It just didn't work out. So eventually they stationed it in a railroad yard with older cars. Well, that was fine for a while, but back in that day, a lot of times farmers would burn fields off to get them ready for spring crop. So the two young men who were assigned to burn the field thought, hey, if we build a really, really big fire, we can be home for dinner. So they built a really big fire, and the fire got out of control, and it burned across the tracks and burnt the train to the ground. So that's why the car is not in existence, and that's why it was rebuilt to the complete specifications it is today. Now, the funeral train. The funeral train, after President Lincoln passed away, he was left in the Capitol Rotunda for a while to be reviewed by mourners. He was then loaded onto the train, and he was taken north into New York City. Throughout, he actually traveled over this very roadbed that we're riding on the tracks now, eventually through Chicago and then into Illinois to his final resting place. Now, that took weeks and weeks and weeks to get traveling all that distance. Did anybody know why the train never went south of Washington, D.C.?
No tracks.
No, they had plenty of tracks. The reason why was because south of Washington, D.C. was the Confederacy. They had just lost the war, and they weren't about to pay homage to a president who had destroyed their way of life forever. So it only went northbound. Now, it stopped in many, many cities, and at those times in the cities, they would unload the casket, they would parade downtown, they would open the casket, and thousands of people and mourners would pass by. Now, every night it was brought back to the train, loaded on the train car, and there's a little-known secret, a favorite guy of mine called the Iceman. His job was to bring buckets of ice into the car, pack the president in ice overnight, and remove the ice in the morning. Now, he was embalmed, but back then they didn't know much about embalming, and they didn't know how much it would work. Now, President Lincoln's presidency and everything about him was sort of a lot of turmoil, a lot of arguments and stuff. And when President Lincoln actually didn't make it to his final resting place till 40 years after the funeral train. And when they finally got the final place agreed on where to intern him, they decided to open the casket. When they opened the casket, the only thing that was missing on him after 40 years was his eyebrows. They had embalmed him that well. So it's got a little known fact. But also why he was traveling around. Most railroads back then were only 100, 200 miles long. So every time you go to a different railroad, the railroad president, kind of a little pompous, would say, hey, you can be on my tracks, but not without my engine. So they switched the engine out. Almost 26 engines carried this train. Also, he would say, oh, by the way, I want my private passenger car attached to the end of the train or next to Lincoln's car. So if you see pictures throughout history about the train, you're going to see it with various different cars and styles on it. That's only because it crossed so many different railroads. Does anyone have any questions here before we disembark? Okay.
Wow, they even got the 8 trestles on it, or the 8 axles.
Right, 4 trucks, yep.
Wow.
Each one of the journal box covers, which is this guy here,
Uh-huh.
is solid brass. They weigh about 16 pounds apiece.
That would be nice if they're with you. You want to get a picture of them
Yeah.
before they leave?
You notice the car doesn't have a number on the side. The only car in America that was never numbered. It's called the United States. It doesn't have a number on it.
I actually was telling him, I said, oh, I see they put United States on here. I bet you nobody knows what that means.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you, you too.
You're on the project.
us know if you like this video by hitting that thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, support our channel by hitting that subscribe button and dinging that bell so you get notified the next time there's a video from Panic D Videos.
Thanks for watching.
Happy hunting!